You need to hear this if you're a follower of international politics. In a move that has sparked international controversy, Israel has banned the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA, from operating within its borders. This decision, enacted through legislation passed by the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, marks a significant escalation in Israel's long-standing criticism of the agency. The ban prohibits UNRWA from running any institutions or providing any services within Israel. This drastic measure is a culmination of years of accusations leveled against UNRWA by the Israeli government. Israel claims that the agency perpetuates the Israeli-Palestinian conflict by classifying descendants of refugees as refugees themselves. They argue that this practice inflates the number of refugees and hinders their resettlement. The recent attacks on October 7th have further fueled Israel's stance against UNRWA. Israel alleges that UNRWA workers were complicit in the attacks, and that UNRWA facilities were used to store weapons. These accusations have been vehemently denied by UNRWA, which maintains its neutrality and commitment to humanitarian aid. The ban on UNRWA has been met with widespread condemnation from the international community. Many countries view it as a violation of international law and a dangerous precedent that undermines the work of humanitarian organizations operating in conflict zones. The ban has also raised concerns about the fate of millions of Palestinian refugees who rely on UNRWA for essential services. UNRWA was established in 1949, following the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. The agency's mandate was to provide relief and human development support to Palestinian refugees who lost their homes and livelihoods during the conflict. For over 7 decades, UNRWA has been a lifeline for millions of Palestinian refugees, providing them with essential services such as education, healthcare, social services, and infrastructure development. UNRWA operates hundreds of schools and health centers across the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, providing education to over 500,000 children and healthcare to millions. The agency also plays a crucial role in providing emergency relief during times of conflict and crisis, such as the recent conflict in Gaza. UNRWA's work has been instrumental in alleviating the suffering of Palestinian refugees and providing them with hope for a better future. The agency's commitment to human dignity and its unwavering support for the rights of Palestinian refugees have earned it international recognition and respect. However, UNRWA's operations have been plagued by financial challenges and political pressure, particularly from Israel. Israel's decision to ban UNRWA is rooted in a long-standing distrust of the agency and its perceived bias against Israel. Israel accuses UNRWA of perpetuating the refugee problem by granting refugee status to descendants of original refugees, thereby inflating their numbers and hindering any possibility of resettlement. They argue that this practice creates a false narrative of perpetual displacement and fuels the conflict. Furthermore, Israel alleges that UNRWA schools and facilities have been used by Hamas, the Palestinian militant group that controls the Gaza Strip, for terrorist activities. They point to incidents where rockets were allegedly found in UNRWA schools and claim that the agency turns a blind eye to Hamas's activities. These accusations, particularly those following the October 7th attacks, have created a hostile environment for UNRWA in Israel. The Israeli government has used these allegations to justify its decision to ban the agency, arguing that UNRWA's presence is no longer tenable and poses a security threat. The international community has largely condemned Israel's decision to ban UNRWA, with numerous countries and international organizations expressing their deep concern over the move. The United States, a key ally of Israel, has also expressed its reservations about the ban. Critics of the ban argue that it undermines the vital humanitarian work of UNRWA and sets a dangerous precedent for the treatment of international organizations operating in conflict zones. They emphasize that UNRWA's presence is crucial for providing essential services to millions of Palestinian refugees who rely on the agency for their survival. The United Nations Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, has urged Israel to reconsider its decision, warning that the ban would have dire consequences for the humanitarian situation in the occupied Palestinian territories. He emphasized that UNRWA plays an indispensable role in providing education, healthcare, and other essential services to Palestinian refugees. The widespread condemnation of Israel's ban on UNRWA underscores the international community's recognition of the agency's vital role in the region. The ban has also raised concerns about the future of humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees and the potential for further instability in the region. Section 5. A humanitarian crisis. The impact of the UNRWA ban. The ban on UNRWA is expected to have a devastating impact on the lives of millions of Palestinian refugees who depend on the agency for their basic needs. The sudden withdrawal of UNRWA's services would create a humanitarian crisis, leaving many without access to education, healthcare, and other essential services. The ban would also exacerbate the already dire economic situation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, where UNRWA is a major employer. The closure of UNRWA's operations would lead to widespread job losses, further deepening the economic hardship faced by Palestinians. The international community is particularly concerned about the impact of the ban on vulnerable groups, such as women, children, and the elderly, who are disproportionately reliant on UNRWA's services. The ban would leave these groups extremely vulnerable and at risk of exploitation and abuse. The potential for a humanitarian catastrophe in the wake of the UNRWA ban is a matter of grave concern for the international community. It is imperative that alternative mechanisms for delivering aid are put in place to mitigate the impact of the ban and ensure that Palestinian refugees continue to receive the essential services they need. Section 6. Strained relations. The ban and Israel's relationship with the UN. Israel's decision to ban UNRWA has further strained its already tense relationship with the United Nations. The move has been widely perceived as an affront to the UN and its efforts to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The ban is seen as a reflection of Israel's growing impatience with international institutions and its unwillingness to engage in meaningful dialogue on the Palestinian issue. It also highlights the growing divide between Israel and the international community on the question of Palestine. The ban on UNRWA is likely to have long-term implications for Israel's relationship with the UN and its standing in the international community. It could lead to increased diplomatic isolation and economic pressure on Israel. The situation underscores the need for a fundamental shift in Israel's approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and its engagement with the international community. A more constructive and cooperative approach is essential to restore trust and create a conducive environment for peace. Section 7. Uncertain future. The fate of UNRWA and Palestinian aid. The future of UNRWA remains uncertain in light of Israel's ban and the ongoing political complexities in the region. The agency faces an uphill battle to continue its operations and secure the necessary funding to provide essential services to Palestinian refugees. The international community must come together to ensure that UNRWA has the financial resources and political backing it needs to fulfill its mandate. Donor countries must increase their contributions to UNRWA and resist any attempts to undermine the agency's work. The ban on UNRWA also raises questions about the future of aid delivery to Palestinian refugees. If UNRWA is forced to cease operations, alternative mechanisms will need to be put in place to ensure that essential services reach those in need. The situation underscores the need for a sustainable solution to the Palestinian refugee issue. As long as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved, the plight of Palestinian refugees will persist, and organizations like UNRWA will continue to face challenges. Section 8. A call for justice. Resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The ban on UNRWA is a stark reminder of the urgent need for a just and lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As long as the conflict persists, Organizations like UNRWA will continue to be caught in the crossfire, and the Palestinian people will continue to suffer. The international community must redouble its efforts to bring the parties together and facilitate a negotiated solution based on international law and UN resolutions. A two-state solution, with an independent and viable Palestinian state alongside Israel, remains the only viable path to peace. A just and lasting peace would not only end the suffering of the Palestinian people, but also create a more stable and prosperous future for the entire region. It is time for the international community to demonstrate the political will and leadership necessary to bring an end to this protracted conflict and create a future of peace and dignity for all.